हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे
हरे कृष्णा। धन्यवाद, प्रणाम नमस्कार प्रभु।
हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे राम।
शिष्य प्रभुपाद will start with Mangalacharan. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। Anybody would like to sing our prayers for this week? Verses 21 to 30 from Sri Govinda Damodar Stotram by Sri Bilvamangal Thakur.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I would like to try.
Hare Krishna. Yes. Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
सुखं शयानं निलये च विष्णुं देवार्षिमुख्या मुनया प्रपन्ना तेनाच्युते तन्मयतं विरन् वर्जन्ति गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति विहाय निद्रम् अरुणोदये च वेदाय कीर्तयानि च विप्रमुख्या वेदावसाने प्रपन्थे नित्यं गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति वृन्दावने गोपगणाश्च गोप्यो विलोक्य गोविन्दवियोगखिन्नं राधां जगुषश्रुविलोचनयाभ्य गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति प्रभृता सञ्चारा गदानुगावस्तद्रक्षणार्थं तनयं यशोदा प्रबोधयायत् पाणितलेन मन्दं गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति प्रवालशोभा इव दीर्घकेशावताम्बो प्राणाशनाभूतदेहा मूले तरुणां मुनया प्रथन्ति गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति एवं ब्रुवाणा विरहातुरभृशां व्रजा स्त्रिय कृष्ण विषिक्तमनसा विसर्ज्य लज्जां रुरुध स्म सुस्वरं गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति गोपी कदाचिन् मणिपिञ्जरास्थं सुखं वचो वाचयितुं प्रवृत्ता आनन्दकन्दाव्रजचन्द्रकृष्णा गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति गोवत्सबाले शिशुकाकपक्षं बद्धन्तम् अम्बोजदलयाताक्षं उवाच माता चिबुकं गहित्वा गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति प्रभवतकाले वरवालवयुगा गोरक्षणार्थं धृतवेत्र दण्डा आकारयन्नम् अश्रु अनन्तम् अद्यं गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति जलाशये कालया मर्दनाय यदा कदम्बाड् अपतं मुरारे गोपाङ्गनानास् चक्षुरुर् इत्यगोपा गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति। हरे कृष्णा. Please excuse me for my mistakes. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. This is all a service for the Lord. Whatever we are using our power of speech, so He accepts the bhav, not the mistakes. Thank you so much. Okay, anybody would like to read the translations for 21 to 30?
Yes, Prabhuji, I can read. Hare Krishna.
Ji.
Dandvat pranams, Prabhuji. All glories to Prabhupada. Devarshi Narada and other munis are always surrendered to Lord Vishnu, who happily rests upon his couch. They always chant the names of Govinda, Damodara, and Madhava, and thus they attain spiritual forms similar to his. Rising at dawn, having performed their rituals and chanted Vedic hymns, the best of the learned Brahmanas always loudly chant Govinda, Damodara, Madhava. In Vrindavana, seeing Sri Radhika overwhelmed with separation from Govinda, groups of Gopas and Gopis sang with tears in their lotus eyes, Govinda, Damodara, O Madhava. The cows having already gone out to graze early in the morning, Mother Yashoda gently roused her sleeping son with the palm of her hand, softly saying, Govinda, Damodara, Madhava. With long matted hair, the color of coral, and bodies purified by eating only leaves, water, and air, the sages sit beneath the trees and chant Govinda, Damodara, and Madhava. After speaking these words, the ladies of Vraja who were so attached to Krishna, Prabhuji, can you scroll a little? Yeah. Krishna felt extremely agitated by their imminent separation from him. They forgot all worldly shame and loudly cried out, O Govinda, O Damodara, O Madhava. Sometimes a gopi is engaged in teaching a parrot within a jeweled cage to recite names like Ananda Kanda, source of bliss, Vrajachandra Krishna, Govinda, Damodara, and Madhava. The lotus-eyed Lord was trying to tying the shika of a cowherd boy to the tail of a calf when his mother caught him, lifted up his chin and said, Govinda, Damodara, Madhava. In the early morning, a group of his favorite cowherd boys arrived, stick canes in hand to take care of the cows. They addressed the unlimited primeval Lord, personality of Godhead, Govinda, Damodara, Madhava. When Lord Murari jumped from the Kadamba branch into the water to chastise the Kalia serpent, all the gopis and cowherd boys went there and cried out, Oh Govinda, Damodara, Madhava. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Now you are audible, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I think just for a fraction of a second I lost your audio there. Maybe it was my connection. Yeah, thank you so much, Shamakarna Mataji and Meenakshi Mohini. Shri Govinda Damodar Stotram ki jai, Shri Bilva Mangal Thakur ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much for reading, Mataji. Your voice itself is so soft, and when you read it, it's more softly as Mother Yashoda did Govinda Damodar Madhava, it became even more soft. Thank you so much. And okay, so we'll continue with our reading of Srila Prabhupada Leelamrit. So yesterday we saw Prabhupada is continuing his preaching movement after continuing his weekly Sankirtan party, or the Sadhu Sangha as we were calling it. It is Sadhu Sangha in this day today, all the Kirtan festivals that we are having. But Prabhupada was the one who started this in the West, and his first Sankirtan festival, Sadhu Sangha in the Tompkins Square Park, and now he's continuing every Sunday. And yeah, more and more noble and souls are getting attracted to Srila Prabhupada. Of course, it's not everybody will get attracted, like they say, right? Manushanam Sahishri, so out of thousands and thousands of men, only one will try to attain perfection. And out of those who attain perfection, only very few know the Lord in truth. So similarly, we see, many hundreds are coming to the park out of maybe millions of population of New York at that point in time. But those who are coming, they are genuinely attracted by the simplicity, modesty, and also the boldness of Srila Prabhupada with which he's preaching is showing that impersonalism is wrong, even though they're reading from Dr. Radhakrishnan's Bhagavad Gita, which is an impersonalist commentary. But Prabhupada said at least, most of the translations were accurate. But yeah, we saw like Dan, who was more an impersonalist person. But initially he was partial towards Prabhupada's commentary, but then slowly his heart is being transformed. And the same thing with Bob, who had now had an altar in his home, and he was reading Bhagavatam and attending the morning classes and kirtans. And also Judy, who was just told by Prabhupada one time to attend the classes, and she's 1.5 hours away, and she's taken that as an instruction, coming every day now for the morning classes. So we'll see. We'll continue from here. I can read today, but that's okay. Okay, so with his aesthetic filmmaker's eye, Dan appreciated Swamiji's manner. Dan, there was a sink right next to the dais where he sat. It was so close that he could have leaned over and touched it. After cutting up an apple, he would take the scraps and just fling them into the sink. It was very casual. I was very impressed by that. And one time, Brahmananda came up and wanted 50 cents for something. And the Swami reached down and picked up his little black purse, the kind that closes by a metal clasp at the top. He snapped it open, looked inside very perspicaciously, and then his hand came up like a bird, like an eagle, hovering in flight above its prey. But the hand didn't pounce. It just delicately drifted down, took out a 50-cent piece, and rose up again as if it were being lifted up on a balloon. It was graceful. It was a dance, a ballet. He just picked up this 50-cent piece and lifted it into Brahmananda's hand. I couldn't believe it. Someone asks you for a 50-cent piece. You just dig it in your pockets and throw it at them. But the Swami seemed to treat everything as Krishna's property, and this 50-cent piece was treated with such care. The weeks went by. Some of the devotees had spoken to Bob about initiation, but he was unsure. He didn't know exactly what initiation was, but it seemed to him that the other devotees were eager to get him initiated because he was working and had a family. To Bob's way of thinking, he represented maturity to them, a middle-class American, and they were eager to land him. Bob's wife wasn't interested, and his friends were downright opposed. He couldn't spend much time with Prabhupada or the devotees, since he was either at the office or at home with his family. So they were asking me if I was interested in initiation. I said I would think about it. I hadn't stopped smoking. I hadn't made the final decision. The first real personal exchange I had with the Swami was when I was asked for initiation. The rest of the time, I was so much in awe of him that it didn't occur to me to say anything. I always wanted to. I felt puffed up, and I always thought, well, I should be able to talk to him. Maybe I should do something. But I was always kind of reluctant to do it. I didn't think it was my place. I guess maybe I was afraid. But I was getting up early and chanting 32 rounds a day, many of them on the subway. I was afraid of the material world because I didn't have much association with devotees, and I wanted to insulate myself by chanting more. Judy was another person who was considering initiation, and I asked her what she was going to do about it, and she said, I'm thinking about it. And then she told me she had decided she would get initiated and give up all her bad habits. I began to think maybe I could give up these things too. So I asked what to do. How do I approach him? And Kirtananda said, well, you go up to his room. I was surprised. It was so easy. I had prepared a little speech in my mind. My dear Swamiji, would you kindly accept me as your disciple and teach me about Krishna consciousness? I went up to his room without an appointment and knocked on the door. I heard him say, come in. I entered the room, and he was sitting behind his desk. He was alone. I made obeisances, and he looked at me and said, yes? And I said, Swamiji, will you make me your disciple? And that's as far as I got. I was going to say, and teach me the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, but he didn't let me finish my speech. He said, yes. It was so simple. I thought, well, there's nothing else to say. He has accepted me. So I thanked him and paid my obeisances and left. You know, you are not supposed to be up here unless you are initiated, Achyutananda said. Judy was flustered. She had come upstairs to put some dirty pots in the kitchen. Oh, yes, she replied. That's just what I wanted to talk to Swamiji about. And she went into Prabhupada's room, where he was talking with a few other people. Swamiji, could I please get initiated? She asked. And he said, Do you know the 4 rules? Yes. Can you follow them? Yes. Then you can be initiated in 2 weeks. Dan was also thinking about initiation, but he wanted to wait. He was chanting 16 rounds and attending all the classes, despite his reluctant wife. He had always had difficulty with authority figures, but he could feel that the Swami was winning him over and wearing down his impersonal barrier. 2 weeks later, Prabhupada held another initiation ceremony. Bob became Rupanuga and Judy became Chadurani. Dan needed a little more time. Haribo. Okay, so let's move to chapter 21, Beyond the Lower East Side. But we were shocked that he was going to leave. I never thought that Krishna consciousness would go beyond the Lower East Side, not to speak of New York City. I thought that this was it, and it would stay here eternally. Brahmananda. Hare Krishna was becoming popular. Regular kirtans in the park, newspaper coverage. Hayagriva called it the Hare Krishna explosion. The Lower East Side hippies considered the chanting of Hare Krishna one of the grooviest things happening, and that the Swami's disciples didn't take LSD didn't seem to affect their popularity. The devotees were accepted as angelic people, carrying the peaceful chanting to others and offering free food and a free place to stay. You could get the most interesting vegetarian food free at their place if you went at the right time. And in their storefront, on the shelf by the door, were books from India. In the clubs, local musicians played the melody that they had picked up from the Swami when he chanted in the park and at the temple. The Lower East Side was a neighborhood of artists and musicians, and now it was also the neighborhood of Hare Krishna. Burton Green. Musicians were influenced by it. The Krishna chant, Govinda Jai Jai, and other chants. I used some of those chants when I recorded. A lot of musicians reached out for this in different ways. We would explode in a short time and blow off, but then keep the chant underneath as a basis. A lot of people found that spiritual vibration even in the midst of the heavy music they were doing. They were becoming devotee musicians. Evening kirtans were always big. Brahmananda used to stand by the back door every night and watch the room fill up until there was no place left to sit. There was a lot of interest in the group chanting and music making, but after the kirtan, when the talk was to begin, people would start to leave. It was not uncommon for half the audience to leave before the talk began, and sometimes people would leave in the middle of the lecture. One evening, Allen Ginsberg brought Ed Sanders and Tully Kupferberg of the Fugs to the meeting. The Fugs, a local group that had made a name for themselves, specialized in obscene lyrics. Among the popular songs of Ed Sanders were Slum Goddess of the Lower East Side, Group, and I Can't Get High. Ed had wild red hair and an electric red beard, and he played a guitar during the kirtan. The devotees were happy to see their prestigious guests. The night of the Fugs, however, Prabhupada chose to speak on the illusion of sexual pleasure. Sex pleasure binds us to this material world, birth after birth, he said. And he quoted, as he often did, a verse of Yamunacharya. Since I have become Krishna conscious, whenever I think of sex life with a woman, my face at once turns from it and I spit at that thought. The Fugs never returned. To speak ill of sexual pleasure was certainly not a strategic move for one who wanted to create followers among the Lower East Side hippies, but Prabhupada never considered changing his message. In fact, when Umapati had mentioned that Americans didn't like to hear that sex was only for conceiving children, Prabhupada replied, I cannot change the philosophy to please the Americans. What about sex? Asked the ISKCON attorney Steve Goldsmith one evening, speaking out from the rear of the crowded temple. Sex should only be with one's wife, Prabhupada said, and that is also restricted. Sex is for the propagation of Krishna-conscious children. My spiritual master used to say that to beget Krishna-conscious children, he was prepared to have sex 100 times. Of course, that is most difficult in this age. Therefore, he remained a brahmachari. But sex is a very strong force, Mr. Goldsmith challenged. What a man feels for a woman is undeniable. Therefore, in every culture, there is the institution of marriage, Prabhupada replied. You can get yourself married and live peacefully with one woman, But the wife should not be used as a machine for sense gratification. Sex should be restricted to once a month and only for the propagation of children. Hayagriva, who was seated just to Swamiji's left, beside the large dangling symbol, spoke out suddenly. Only once a month? And with a touch of facetious humor, he added loudly, better to forget the whole thing. Yes, that's it. Very good boy. Swamiji laughed, and others joined him. It is best not to think of it, best just to chant Hare Krishna. And he held up his hands as if he were chanting on a strand of beads. That way, we will be saved from so much botheration. Sex is like the itching sensation, that's all. And as when we scratch, it gets worse. So we should tolerate the itching and ask Krishna to help us. It is not easy. Sex is the highest pleasure in the material world, and it is also the greatest bondage. But Steve Goldsmith was shaking his head. Prabhupada looked at him, smiling. That is still a problem? It's just that, well, it's been proved dangerous to repress the sex drive. There's a theory that we have wars because people are eating meat, Prabhupada interrupted. As long as people eat meat, there will be war. And if a man eats meat, he will be sure to have illicit sex also. Steve Goldsmith was an influential friend and supporter of ISKCON, but Prabhupada would not change the philosophy of Krishna consciousness to please the Americans. Judson Hall on West 57th Street cost $200 to rent for one night. Raya Ram thought it was time Swamiji tried reaching some of the more sophisticated New Yorkers. And since Judson Hall was near Carnegie Hall and sometimes had interesting concerts and lectures, he thought it would be a good place to start. Swamiji agreed to the idea, and Raya Ram printed an announcement which he distributed in the Midtown bookstores. On the night of the event, the devotees paraded through the Midtown entertainment areas, beating a brass drum and handing out leaflets. Then they returned to Judson Hall for the program. Only 7 people attended. The devotees felt terrible. They had misled Swamiji and spent the equivalent of a month's rent. We can cancel the program if you like, Swamiji, Raya Ram said. But Prabhupada replied, no, let us chant and speak. So the devotees took the stage and chanted with Swamiji and danced, and then sat beside him as he lectured, his voice echoing through the empty hall. Afterwards, Swamiji called for questions, and a young man, about 15 vacant rows back, asked whether he was correct in understanding that the Swami's philosophy was primarily for reforming destitute young people. No, Prabhupada replied. Everyone in this material world is lost and destitute, even the so-called successful person, because everyone has forgotten Krishna. After the program, Swamiji sat in his chair by the exit as the few members of the audience were leaving. A respectable-looking couple introduced themselves, and Swamiji sat up very straight and with folded palms and smiled. Ramananda's mother was present, and Swamiji was very cordial toward her. But in general, the devotees were depressed at the small turnout. I'm sorry, Swamiji. We invited you here, and almost no one came. Raya Ram apologized. But Prabhupada raised his eyebrows and said, no one? You did not see Narada? You did not see Lord Brahma? When there is chanting of Hare Krishna, even the demigods come to participate. Back at the temple, Prabhupada chided Raya Ram. I told you we should have charged money. When something is free, people think it is worthless. But just charge $3 or $5, and people will think, oh, you are offering some very valuable thing. In Bengal, there is a story of a man who went house to house offering free mangoes, and no one would take his mangoes because everyone thought, oh, why is he giving away these mangoes? There must be something wrong with them. So he charged 3 rupees, and then they thought, these look like good mangoes. The price is only 3 rupees, all right. So when people see that something is free, they think it is worthless. Charge them some money, and they will think it is very nice. Burton Green was a musician, fond of the Swami, and fond of banging on the innards of the piano in the temple during Kirtan. Burton Green. We had a really explosive thing to break out of, with this capitalistic, materialistic egg sitting on us. So there was so much ferocity in the music to break out of. But spinning out like that, you could have a nervous breakdown. So it was great to go to the Swami's and chant in a small storefront on 2nd Avenue. The streets were full of maya and perversion, and his was a place to really mellow out. It was great to chant there to balance my life. It was great to sit and have prasadam with the Swami and get some real authentic Indian cooking and chapatis and talk about things, especially when I had very little money in my pocket. It was always nice to go. When Burton asked Prabhupada to attend his piano recital at Town Hall Theatre, Prabhupada agreed. Brahmananda. About 7 or 8 of us in our sneakers and jeans had ridden on the subway with the Swamiji to Town Hall. We went in and took our seats, and the concert began. Burton Green came out, opened the piano top, took a hammer, and began wildly hitting on the strings inside the piano. And it went on for an hour and a half. We were all sitting there with Swamiji, and we all began chanting on our beads. There were only about 24 people in the whole theater. Then the intermission came, and Swamiji wanted to go to the toilet room, and I went along and helped him, turning on the water in the sink, getting a paper towel for him. Doing these little services for Swamiji seemed like the perfection of my life. There was something so great about him that just doing these things was my perfection. And I felt like I was protecting him, like I was his personal bodyguard. Coming up on the subway, I had shown him how the subway worked and answered his questions. It all seemed very intimate. Anyway, we went back upstairs to our seats, and Burton Green came right up to Swamiji, saying, Swamiji, are you happy? Are you comfortable? Do you like it? And Swamiji was very polite and said, yes. Then Burton said, now the second part is coming. I interrupted and tried to say that Swamiji is very tired and he takes rest at 10. It was already after 10, so I said we had to go back. But he pressed Swamiji to stay for the second half, and so we had to stay. Then the poets came out and recited poetry. We were there until 11:30, and then we had to ride back on the subway. But a few weeks later, I learned that Prabhupada had another reason for going to town hall. He was thinking of renting it for a temple, and he wanted to see it. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll pause here for today. Yes. Anybody has any thoughts, comments, anything that you liked, loved, or learned something new today from the reading?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Just a small philosophy came to my mind when you were reading about the Burton Seva to Swamiji, and he said, serving Swamiji felt that that is the perfection of his life. And I recently heard in a lecture that the speaker was saying, when we develop true affection or devotion towards Krishna, the service attitude will come automatically. That is the reciprocation of Krishna. When you are truly and purely inclined, then you will have that urge to serve selflessly. So in this here in this reading, we also see that he was doing Swami Seva, and he was feeling that as a perfection of his life. So just that lecture came to my mind. I wanted to share that. Yeah. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Yes, very beautiful reflection, and yeah, and like we were, it's kind of coincidental. I was saying something similar at the beginning when I was remembering that shloka from Bhagavad Gita, right? Manushanam Sahasreshu. So out of many millions of men, only one strives for perfection. That perfection is what to get out of this, cycle of birth and death. And out of those who have attained perfection, only one know the Lord in truth. So similarly here, yeah, like you said, perfection is not in attaining some big things, right? Like when you do these menial services, and it comes naturally. Like here, like they were saying, while the recital was going on, they were just chanting on their beads, right? Where is that inspiration coming from? Again, just by the association of a pure devotee of the Lord with Srila Prabhupada, just by observing him, by being with him, by serving him, selflessly like this, that the heart is being cleansed. That is, so we see, everything is happening. Like we can see practical examples here. Mahaprabhu says, Chetadarpana Majam, that is the first thing that happens when you chant. And we can see live examples, how all these lives are transformed. Yesterday, Anandini Mataji was saying about all these people. They're not ordinary people. I mean, now we are reading about them as Dan, as Bob, as Judy, but they were all acharyas. They have all become acharyas by their examples, how they've led their life, and with sincerity, following Prabhupada's instructions. And again, everything happens. All our scriptures are screaming, all our acharyas are screaming about this again and again, that in this day and age we have to chant the holy names. Everything is there inside the holy names. Just like a small seed holds a whole banyan tree, similarly the holy name as a seed, when it's sowed in our heart, everything happens automatically. I mean, these are words of Srila Prabhupada, these are words of our acharyas. we have to just take to them to our heart and follow them. And when we do that, we don't have to strive for attaining knowledge, attaining perfection. Everything comes automatically when the mercy flows. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else would like to share anything? I also liked how Prabhupada mentioned that we should not give anything for free, right? Again, that instruction now kind of resonates with me when we hand out books, even though we charge very nominal donation, even if it is $2 or $5 for Prabhupada's smaller books. But yeah, when somebody pays that $2, it's almost like they're giving that dakshina. It's like a guru dakshina, because Prabhupada Vani through his books means we are distributing Srila Prabhupada. Actually, Prabhupada is going to their homes, and this is like it's a guru dakshina that they are giving for that as a token of appreciation for what they are getting. And it is very important that when people pay that, then actually it has a deeper connection versus giving something out for free. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else would like to share anything? Meena Mataji.
I would like
Yes,
to tell Prabhuji that because of Prabhupada, the whole world is revolutionized. See, a single person, how he changed the whole. This one is, people coming to him and chanting. It's so. And I would also like that word, Prabhuji, Vasudevika Kutumbikam. So wherever we go, the devotees are there and we are out of fear. So in that aspect, I like it very much, Prabhuji. So Prabhupada, I don't know, he's from the spiritual world and he blessed us to chant the holy name. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Yeah, that's one nice thing, right? As devotees, we always, when we are traveling, especially, we look for temples, and it's always good. And we have now that the congregation has grown so much. ISKCON has flourished with the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, with the mercy of predecessor acharyas, and with the hard work of all Srila Prabhupada's disciples, that at least we have temples, at least in major cities everywhere, and we can get association of devotees, we can get, prasadam when we travel. So that's wonderful. And yeah, we also have to carry on that same spirit and mood that when somebody reaches out or somebody is coming into the town, how we can help, how we can serve, just as these disciples of Srila Prabhupada were serving him, taking any opportunity that we can to serve both exalted devotees who are coming as well as devotees who are just traveling to our towns and looking for help to either to stay or for prasadam, or just stopping by, etc. So thank you, Mataji. Okay, so I think 6:35, we can pause here. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंतकोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। जगद्गुरु शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। शिल प्रभुपाद लीलामृत की जय। निताई गौर हरि हरि बोल। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Krishna bless you.